In this video, we're talking about 4 simple tips we have for beginner off-roaders like us. Let's get on with it. Back in the spring earlier this year, Rochelle, Theo, and I went with my sister and her boyfriend to one of the more well-known off-roading trails here in BC. It's the trail that leads to the Hale Creek recreation site in Harrison Lake. And there are 2 known ways to get there. One is the easy way, and the other is obviously the hard way. Of course, we went the easy way because Rochelle, Theo, and I are total beginner off-roaders, and we're only just starting out. It was Theo's 3rd off-roading trip at that point, but it was a bit more special because I wasn't the one driving. Yep, you saw that correctly. It was Rochelle behind the wheel, and it was her first time driving off-road. Obviously, she did a tremendous job because, well, we survived. And if you want to see how great she did, just keep watching. For now, let's go through the few essentials that we've learned as beginner off-roaders. First, know your limits, both in your equipment and your knowledge and skills. Whatever your current rig and skill level is, you should familiarize yourself with the limits of what you can do with it. You might be a total beginner like us and have a 2-wheel drive sedan, but if you make sure you have the proper tires and you only go to places your skill level and vehicle can access, you'll find that there are still a lot of places you can explore. Second, don't go alone. I can't stress this enough, but if you are a beginner off-roader, it's a bad idea to go on your own. Even if you have all the off-roading equipment money can buy. Not even if you're going to a well-trafficked trail. A lot of things can go wrong while you're off-roading. For example, popping a tire, engine overheating, a lot of possible mechanical issues with your off-roader, getting stuck in the trail, getting lost, and the list goes on and on. You don't want any of these happening while you're off-roading on your own. And let's say you have your family with you and nobody else. To me, that would make it a whole lot worse. And if you're going in a group, make sure that there's at least one in the group with ample experience in off-roading adventures. Someone with ample off-roading skills and the essential safety and recovery equipment. Someone who can confidently guide you and help you out if issues do arise. I would recommend joining Facebook groups like BC Offroading or BC Overlanders or 4-Wheel Drive Association BC or any other similar group in your area. They usually organize off-roading trips, and some of those trips, like ones they call newbie runs, are more suited for beginners. One of the benefits of going with an experienced off-roader, especially if they have the essential equipment, is that you can borrow theirs and not necessarily have your own while you're still just starting out. That has been the case for us. When we did our first ever off-roading trip in East Harrison, we had absolutely no safety or recovery equipment, but my sister's boyfriend was with us. He's the one who owns the Jeep in our earlier video introducing our Xterra. And for that first trip, he was totally gracious to lend us his stuff that we needed to safely complete the trip. For example, before we entered the Forest Service road, we had to deflate our tires, and I borrowed his deflator for that. In terms of recovery gear, at that time he only had a tow strap, but it proved to be very helpful because I got stuck in the sand and he had to pull me out. By the way, a tow strap is like this. This is one example of a tow strap. And then before we drove back on paved roads, we had to re-inflate our tires, and I borrowed his compressor. And for every subsequent trip that we took with him and my sister, he has been lending us off-roading stuff that he had. This leads us to the third tip, which is you don't have to buy every off-roading equipment all at once before even starting. As I've said, if you join an off-roading group, there will always be someone who is willing to lend you their stuff. The stuff I'm talking about here are the essential ones that a beginner off-roader might not be able to afford at first or justify the expense for just yet. For example, a deflator and a compressor for changing your tire pressures, which is really important when off-roading. You can borrow these from someone in your group as long as they are willing to accommodate you and the additional time it takes the group to wait for you while you deflate or inflate your tires. Another example is recovery gear such as tow straps, traction boards, and a winch. You don't necessarily use these every time you go on an off-roading trip, so as long as somebody else has them, you can borrow from them and ask them to help you out when, like, say you get stuck. You can gradually acquire these equipment over time, but remember, you don't have to complete the collection first before you go off-roading. Tip number 4, gradually work on having safety and recovery equipment of your own, especially if you're thinking of off-roading as a recurring hobby. It goes without saying, but if you go to enough off-roading trips and you learn from more experienced off-roaders, you won't be staying as a beginner for long. And at that point, it would be nice to have your own equipment. That will save your group time and the inconvenience of having to wait for you to finish using the stuff they lent you. Also, it provides some form of peace of mind. Like a lot of safety and recovery gear, it's better to have them and not need them than to need them and not have them. I've mentioned airing down or deflating your tires a number of times in this video, and that's for good reason. Airing down, I would say, is the most basic essential step that off-roaders take before every single off-roading trip. It has a number of benefits, not the least of which is traction, which is indispensable in any driving situation, unless you're Tokyo drifting. Losing traction can lead to accidents, which can be fatal in some cases, especially if you're driving on elevated Forest Service roads. When you air down, you're basically driving on flat tires, and flat tires increase the surface of contact between your vehicle and the road surface. Gravel or dirt roads are quite slippery to begin with, so increasing your traction will help you stay on the road. Another benefit of airing down is comfort. Obviously, dirt and gravel roads aren't the smoothest roads to drive on, but having deflated tires helps smoothen the ride. Imagine a balloon being fully inflated. It's really bouncy, right? But if you deflate it to maybe less than half the original pressure, it becomes less bouncy and more compliant. That's how airing down helps. It dampens the bumps and the roughness of the road, which helps reduce the stress on you and your passengers, your vehicle's suspension, shocks, and chassis, and that is a benefit in itself. Go slow. Don't rush. Off-road trails aren't racetracks, and most of them aren't built for speed. Unless you're driving a side-by-side or an ATV, slow down. In a majority of cases, the journey is the destination, so enjoy the drive. But remember, when you're driving slow, pull over for faster traffic to let them pass. Now, this is not a lesson, but an appeal. If you are privileged enough to be able to go off-roading, please help preserve the trails and recreation sites. Let's keep them clean, let's avoid vandalizing anything, let's pack out what we pack in, and let's do our best to help preserve them for our future enjoyment and the enjoyment of all the beginner off-roaders who will come after us. So wherever you find yourself going, whatever you find yourself doing, we hope you get to enjoy the journey. As always, and until the next one, please stay safe and wash your hands. Also, if you think that we're doing a good job and that we've earned it, kindly like this video, subscribe to our channel, and tap on that bell icon. We enjoy creating videos, but knowing that somebody else enjoys watching them means a lot to us. So Thank you. Please tell me that's recording. Yeah, baby.